Molly Moons, a Black Lives Matter supporting ice cream parlor, sues over lack of protection during CHOP that they still support. They're suing for an unspecified amount of money for a cause that they supported because they're saying the cause that they supported caused them to lose a whole bunch of business. How does that make any sense at all? Let's get into it. Let's just tear this one apart. Molly Moon's ice cream. You guys went woke. I hope you go broke. Here we go. Molly Moon's Homemade Ice Cream, a Seattle-based ice cream company that is very woke, is suing the city over extensive property damage that the store incurred during the Black Lives Matter Zone CHOP protest in 2020, despite the fact that the owner supports Black Lives Matter and ostensibly was and is still anti-cop. If you are supporting Black Lives Matter, you are anti-cop. It's one of their main principles is, get rid of all the borders, get rid of immigration, just let everybody go. Doesn't matter. No cops, no judges, no court system. Just let her rip. It's going to be fine. Well, we saw what happened when we did just a tiny little bit of defunding the police. Did that work out in public safety's factor here in Seattle? No. Two black kids got murdered instead. Yeah. Black Lives Matter versus Black Lives being murdered? Yeah. I mean, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to support Black Lives Matter? I don't. So what this is a money grab by Molly Moons. This is a money grab, plain and simple. In fact, they spend a good portion of the beginning of this lawsuit saying, I know that we're suing because of Black Lives Matter protest, CHOP, formerly known as Chaz. But that doesn't take away from the meaning of Black Lives Matter that we really support here. They're just kind of one of those companies. They're basically talking out of both sides of their ass. That's what they're doing. I mean, this is just nonsense. This is a money grab. This is a sue and let's settle because there's a precedent. City of Seattle has already settled, a $3.6 million lawsuit with a group of business owners and some real estate guys in there that were impacted. And I am not saying Molly Moons wasn't impacted by CHOP. I'm sure they were. I'm sure their sales were impacted. But this joke of an ice cream company also had a sign that we're going to see that says, we don't want any police in here that are armed. Well, that's kind of the police's job. And what you're saying is that you are suing because the city kicked all these cops out, but then you didn't want them anyway. And you put that sign up and you stated outright, you don't want cops in there. It's like, you can't ask cops to come in without a gun. That's not how this works. Quit playing your stupid games. You're ridiculous. That's what you've got going on. You're ridiculous, Molly Moons. Cairo News Radio reporter Sam Campbell shared the details of the lawsuit, which has gone viral, showing the irony of the case. This is so standard Seattle. This would not be out of place in Portland. This would not be out of place in San Fran. You got a bunch of woke people. If they didn't have such great ice cream, this would be an absolute train wreck of a company because they're just, we don't want the cops in here. It's like, you got to choose. That's the bottom line here, right? You got to choose. If you want to have all the businesses impacted negatively, ask the cops to clear out. And the cops didn't want to clear out. The mayor, government officials basically made them, hey, you know what? We're going to have the summer of love. What could possibly go wrong if we take police and basic public safety services out of this area for a while? I mean, it's going to be the summer of love, right? 2 black kids get murdered. So if you want to support Black Lives Matter and having, that type of activity happen, it's free country. You can do it. I'd rather have cops with guns and not have violent, the violence that happened during CHOP. And I was there. You might say, hey, Sean, you don't know what you're talking about. I was there. There's multiple videos of me covering CHOP. I was there. Yeah. 2 kids got murdered. Yeah, not that hard to figure out, right? Not that hard to figure out what direction Black Lives Matter goes. It's not a good one, and especially not a good one if you're a business, because, they're just bashing stores, robbing, crazy stuff. And then the whole grassroots Black Lives Matter versus corporate, and then the ownership buying up a bunch of mansions, and then corporate buying a mansion. Oh, it's a safety house. Oh, it's a safe house. Oh, no, it's a content creation house. Oh, we're going to have a birthday party there. Oh, I got to pay for it because I'm using corporate stuff for my kid's birthday. You got a whole bunch of that going on. You got an ongoing lawsuit. You've got all kinds of ongoing lawsuits with CHOP. It's just, the whole thing is just, it's going to be the summer of love. Yeah, not really. Not really. KUOW reported that the rioters took over a 10-block area surrounding a Molly Moon's location. 3 years later, the ice cream shop that has 9 locations in the Seattle area is filing a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington. You really cannot make this up. This is a tweet. I meme, therefore I am. Molly Moon's Ice Cream is suing Seattle over losses and damages from Black Lives Matter Autonomous Zone they contributed to and promoted. Yeah, just insanity. Here's from Jason Rantz. Molly Moon's Ice Cream goes to war with Seattle Police Department, bans police with weapons. Why? Why would you do that? I mean, you're just a moron. You got the whole George Floyd thing. That's a wildly different deal. That's not happening in Seattle. I mean, you realize that, right? That's not really happening. And for every one of those instances, there's where the police come in and save you. So, and they need a gun to do that. That's how this works. And this whole concept of, the police are killing everybody. How many shootings did we have in Chicago this weekend? I think was it like 61? Yeah. Not one of them were police, but you get one done by the cops or, an event by the cops. And the cops oftentimes in these instances, they're dealing with somebody who has been breaking the law. George Floyd was. I'm not saying that what happened to him was right, but I am saying the initiation of what happened to him was from him breaking the law. He was trying to pawn off a $20 fake bill, $20 fake bill. Didn't go right. Went sideways for him. In a statement, the company says that the suit is seeking indemnification for the significant revenue losses and team morale impacts experienced during and for many months after CHOP caused by the city of Seattle's decision to abandon the police precinct. And that's what they did. They told the cops to pull out. And then they realized, oh my gosh, we have some liability here. We pulled the police out. So how do we get away from this liability? All of us top Seattle officials, we're just going to delete our text messages. Hope nobody finds out. Well, people found out and a judge just absolutely, shellacked them. But you got the mayor, you got the police chief, you got the chief of the fire department, you got a bunch of other high-ranking officials, like 7 of them total. And they all miraculously lost their text messages. So without those messages, a lot of the lawsuits going on can't be proven. Because they can't say, hey, well, you guys did this, this, and this, as they're supposed to keep documentation of during the shutdown of the police station. It's part of public records. Everybody knows it. There's a setting on their phones they chose to delete instead of keep those messaging. And now we don't really know what happened. So there's no way to prove liability. So the company is claiming that the city ignored its constitutional rights because police chose to abandon the CHOP zone. They didn't choose to do that. The mayor did. To some Black Lives Matter rioters and Antifa. Remember, this is mainly not even Black Lives Matter. This is Antifa co-opting their cause and basically taking it over. Black Lives Matter rioters who damaged their building, which is a spacious argument, considering Molly Moon's didn't want the police there in the first place. I hope some judge just rips them a new asshole. I really do. Let's see, kids. You want what? Oh, yeah. No. You guys are talking out of both sides of your ass. We're not doing that. You guys go home. Case dismissed. I hope that's what happens, right? They're also not suing the protesters, completely ignoring Black Lives Matter and Antifa, who caused all the damage. Why aren't they suing them? How come? Yeah, because they're ridiculous. Because they don't want to undermine CHOP participants' message or present a counter message. What was the CHOP participants' message? I was there many, many times. And out of control violence was one message. Shooting teenage black kids was another message that I walked away from. A lot of graffiti that they claimed was artwork. Nah, not so much. A lot of writing about cops, ACAB, 1213. We all know what that stands for. A lot of drugs, a lot of guns. Saw some guns. Just out of control. And these protests that the mainstream media claimed were mostly peaceful, where they just went through Seattle and bashed out windows and stole from stores and just created some major mayhem. Black Lives Matter and Antifa should be forced to reckon with the consequences, not only in Seattle, but across the United States. $5 million in damage, $2 million in damage claims, $2 billion, and $5 billion. And yet Molly Moons wants to stick it to Seattle. Why is that? Well, because suing Black Lives Matter and suing Antifa's got no money. Black Lives Matter's got at least, 30 million, 40 million left. They are now going negative relative to their overhead. Because here's another thing about Black Lives Matter. They just hire a whole bunch of family members, pay them millions of dollars for things like security when that family member doesn't own a security company. Huh. Weird. Millions of dollars for consultation. Consultation of what? You've never consulted before in your life. What do we pay? It doesn't matter. Just shuffle some money to the family member because, intergenerational wealth. That's what we're trying to do here. And that is literally what Patrisse Cullors, her explanation was for why she went out. She got a book advance, took some money, bought 3 houses. Hey, you're a member of Black Lives Matter. You're one of the founders. You are a Marxist. Marxists don't really believe in investing in real estate. That's not how this goes. But her explanation was, well, I wanted to create some intergenerational wealth for my family as a Marxist. See where we're going here? Makes 0 sense. Kind of just like this lawsuit. It's like, yeah, you don't deserve crap. After CHOP, Jason Rantz here, the uber lefty Molly Moons ice cream owner made it clear and didn't support cops. This sign was posted to tell cops not to enter their shop. Please don't come into our shop. While declaring online that it supported divesting funds from Seattle police. All right. Now they're suing over Antifa and Black Lives Matter activism. That's what I deal with here in Seattle. A bunch of chuckleheads. That's what they are. I mean, you're suing? Really? Okay. Really? That's interesting. That's an interesting approach. Molly Moons made repeated endorsements publicly of the Black Lives Matter movement in Seattle and across the nation, according to Fox News. There are a number of posts on the company's Instagram page celebrating leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement who are crooks. They're crooks. They're shady. They're shysters, including Nikita Oliver, who is a lawyer that identifies as non-binary. Don't care. She was a lawyer who ran for city council or did she run for mayor? I can't remember. She got blasted in whatever election because the whole being cool because you're, promoting Black Lives Matter, those days are over. We're no longer doing that. That's not a thing. Black Lives Matter's donations have just slowed to a crawl, and yet their overhead is still there. That security for the founding members. I need a lot of security. Man, Lori Lightfoot over in Chicago, she had quite the security detail when she was at the end of her time in office. I mean, she had a big crew running around with her. Yeah. Interesting, right? I mean, you need that big of a crew? Huh. You must have a lot of enemies. Yeah. People wanted to take her out. The retail outlet is very progressive. We're talking about Molly Moons. It shared posts on voting with a felony, promoting access to safe abortions, and vigorous support of Pride Month. Do what you want. If you want to talk about voting with the felony, going down those roads, it's a free country. It's a matter of free speech. But when you go to sue somebody, you want to have all your ducks lined up in a row. You want to make sure that it's going to be a valid lawsuit and that you aren't talking out of both sides of your ass. But that's not what's going on here. They'll probably get some woke judge that'll give them, $25 million, something stupid like that. And then on appeal, it'll get shut down and Molly Moons will go, this was a historic victory. I mean, we're not going to get anything out of it, but it's all about the fight. Yeah. The company is one of many lining up to sue the city of Seattle for failing to protect and prevent businesses from being damaged by rioters, potential danger to individuals, and possible death due to the CHOP movement back in 2020. The city does have liability. I think the city has extensive liability. I think they should be paying out millions and millions of dollars to those impacted by it. But I think we should also go after Black Lives Matter, and I think we should also go after Antifa for their part in all of this. I mean, go after them. Instead, we stood around and went, well, it's mostly peaceful, as, window after window got bashed down. I remember, hearing stories and looking at businesses that you knew damn well weren't woke, but they had a Black Lives Matter sign in their storefront, in their window, because they didn't want to get their window bashed in. So that's how this worked. You're either with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, we're going to vandalize and loot your store, period. So if you want to support that kind of cause, I'd say, again, it's a free country. But if you're going to try and sue based on the damages that those entities had that you supported, no, hard no-go. Molly Moons, what you're doing is you should be ashamed of. Really, you should really be ashamed of. The father of a teenage son who died in Seattle's CHOP zone is also suing the city. There have been I think there have been 4 lawsuits in total out of the 2 young men that lost their lives in CHOP. And a couple of those have been dismissed. One had a payout, $300,000, something like that. We got another lawsuit. The 16-year-old kid, his dad is basically going down the same road, which is, hey, my son was killed. And city of Seattle, you didn't have a game plan for what to do when a 911 call comes in. Because on the first kid, a 19-year-old kid, what happened there is he was shot. Antifa and Black Lives Matter brought him to the taco whatever it is, taco shop in CHOP, put him on one of the tables. He's bleeding out. They couldn't get the EMTs. They couldn't get the ambulance to him because the police have to come in and clear out any kind of shooting. They have to secure the area so the technicians can come in. That wasn't happening. No cops were going in there. And so the ambulance was like, hey, no, we got to wait for the cops to come in and clear this area, secure the area. And by the time all of this was squared away, Antifa had taken the 19-year-old kid to the hospital, dropped him off, and he died. So had he been able to get medical treatment earlier, there's a strong chance, there is at least an argument to be made that he might have lived. So yeah, there is some massive liability here. And Seattle knew it. Leadership knew it. And that's why they ditched all the cell phones. Mine fell in the Puget Sound. Yeah, and you got 4 of those. I dropped mine in the water. The tech guy came and he changed the settings. He must have changed that setting where after 30 days, we delete all the text messages when everybody has gone through orientation on record keeping and they know that they're supposed to keep their text messages because that's part of the deal. Things happen so quickly. Things were so fluid in the CHOP that things were happening on the fly. I mean, yeah. 1 minute, the Department of Transportation is there to take away the barriers. The next, they're not. Next minute, they're meeting with the second in command to the mayor. You get all these, just stuff going on. And it wasn't until the mayor's house was marched on. She had a little bit of, graffiti and a little bit of damage done to her place. And then she was like, okay, Summer of Love, it's over. It's done. Clear it out, boys. We're going to bring you back. Oh, we love the police now. They went from, zeros to heroes in just a short period of time. I need you guys to clear out the CHOP zone. And that was a glorious day. That was July 1st. I was right there. It was epic watching the cops clear out just a bunch of riffraff, Antifa, Black Lives Matter losers and all their crap. We're gonna plant some stuff here in the field and It's going to grow and we're going to feed everybody from these 3 plants, these 3 tomato plants that we're planting. I should look back and see what they actually planted now that I'm a master gardener of my own right. No, I've got some killer potatoes going. I do. I've got potatoes for days because they're easy to grow. You put them in a thing, you put some dirt over, you wait for their things to come up, you put more dirt, and you go. I've even got potato bags where you can open up a little fly thing and hey, there's potatoes in there. They're growing. Yeah, the chop thing. Yeah, they tried to convince us they're going to grow crops for everybody. There's 300 people living in a small amount of space. They're all being brought free food. The suit that was filed with O'Shawn and Associates in June, Antonio Mays Sr., claimed the city was well aware of the violence in CHOP, but had abandoned it without a working plan to provide essential services. His 16-year-old son, Antonio Mays Jr., was shot and killed after he traveled there from California for what he thought was a peaceful protest in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, where I call BS on that is that one black man had already lost his life in CHOP. And we knew about the violence. We knew about the guns. I mean, we knew about them forcing out the police department. We knew about the graffiti. We knew about the assaults on women that happened, some say, every single night. And some say happen every single night in the homeless encampments because there's, really no law. And if the victims aren't going to speak out, which most of the time they do not, because they don't want to get killed, then, this kind of stuff just happens. So saying that it was what he thought was a peaceful protest, what 16-year-old kid goes to a peaceful protest? Honestly, he was there for the action. We all know it. Plus, it was rumored that he was driving his Jeep Wagoneer Cherokee around the CHOP zone and wildly firing a gun. So when he came in hot, they lit him up. I mean, that's the way I see it. The lawsuit brings something else out. Okay, I'll podcast on that as well. Sadly, Antonio soon realized that there was nothing peaceful about CHOP, the suit charges. Unfortunately, he had to learn the hard way, and he was cut down by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. They ended his life. They should be on the hook for this, not the city of Seattle. City of Seattle does have liability. I agree. But the vast majority of it should be going on those who committed the actions. In Seattle, they enabled that. They enabled an area where Department of Transportation brought in a whole bunch of traffic, concrete traffic block barrier things to create the perimeter of CHOP. City of Seattle brought them. What's the first thing that a group that believes in tearing down all walls and no borders, what's the first thing that they do when they create their own area? Build a border wall with the help from Seattle Department of Transportation. They've got to bring in these super heavy pieces of concrete, and they've got, mechanisms to drop them off, just like on the roads. And so they did that. And so, when they tried to go back in and take them back because they're going to clear CHOP, that's when all hell broke loose. And, we need to negotiate. And then the mayor just said, nope, they're out of there. And it only took, a matter of literally minutes for the police to go in and do their job against a bunch of undermanned and, lunatic Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters that ended the lives of 2 black kids in a small zone. So there's that, right? In 2020, a week after the deadly autonomous zone was broken up, the ice cream chain gave the cold shoulder to police officers. Here is that thing in the window that Molly Moons, the ice cream shop we're talking about. Molly Moons is a gun-free zone. Please do not come inside if you are wearing a firearm. Really? That's just some real posing. That's being a poser. We don't want to have police in here who have guns on them. But now we're going to sue because, the police weren't there with guns to, square us away to provide public safety. Therefore, City of Seattle, we're going to sue you because you've got the biggest pockets. That's what this is. This is a money grab. It's a money grab. They're seeing other people make some money. They're doing the same thing. They're going to sue the City of Seattle. Let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens here. Let's see where this goes. Hard to play the victim when they celebrated the very thing they claimed wronged them. That's bottom line, right? That is bottom line. You can't claim that somebody impacts you if you support that very cause. It's a no can do. Hopefully the judge sees right through what they've got going on here. And then we can make some more fun of Molly Moons because they deserve it. You know, this is one of those typical Seattle companies who's virtue signaling all over. We support this. And then their store gets broken into, which is par for the course for a Black Lives Matter, mostly peaceful protest. It's just par for the course, right? And they were just running around bashing stores, bashing new construction, bashing houses, setting stuff on fire. I mean, that's just normal. Yeah, having some shootings, shooting some people. Just another day in Seattle at the chop. We're just doing stuff, growing some crops. Yeah. Not good ones, but we're growing some crops. A little bit of violence going on. Smoking some doobie. A lot of doobie smoking on at Chop. Seattle, right? But a lawsuit like this? No. I am waiting for some judge just to shut this bad boy down. Hey, guys, I'm really, I've read through your lawsuit. On one hand, you seem to be supporting Chop. On the other hand, you seem to want some money because you were wronged. Which one is it? Which one is it, kids? Because you can't be coming and going. And it looks like that's what you're doing. And I can't wait for a judge to drop that. But again, it's Seattle. And so you'll probably get some, I appreciate your support of Black Lives Matter. Therefore, I'm going to award you $14 million. City of Seattle, bam. It's a negotiation. It'll never go that way. Because they're looking for this not to go to trial because the city doesn't want to have the exposure. They're going to try and negotiate. So the city of Seattle will probably cut them a check too. Yeah, everybody's coming in for their piece of the pie because the city of Seattle's got exposure. They've got exposure. Hey, what happened to those text messages you guys are supposed to keep? Deleted them. I mean, that's what you do, right? You got to cover your steps. I mean, that's just what you do. So crazy. This whole storyline is just, it's absurd. It's what I'm working with here in Seattle. These are the kind of people that run businesses and vote. Yeah. Now let's move on. Hey, we got some new cool merch. One of them is buy a man, eat fish the day, teach man to a lifetime. Joe Biden. I mean, finer words have never been said by the leader of the free world, right? Buy a man, eat fish the day, teach man to a lifetime. What in the F does that mean? Don't know. Doesn't matter. It's on a coffee cup. Check out our merch line. We got a new merch line up. We got a bunch of stuff. We got stuff. We got like woke tears. I think we got some reasonable cups. We've also got, I think over this shoulder, over there, we've got a, when I die, don't let me vote Democrat. That's funny. That's funny. Check us out on Reasonable Plus. That's our Discord channel. Check us out on reasonabletv.com. That's our subscription channel. Stuff we can't do here on other major platforms, we do there. Good stuff. Thanks for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.